Next meets. Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What an unedifying spectacle we have before us, watching the three candidates from Labour, Cunliffe, Robinson and Jones, crawling all over each other to offer more to their mates. The unions will be happy, but the rest of New Zealand will be wondering who is going to foot the bill. It's a lolly scramble, said John Armstrong in the Herald this morning, and I found myself agreeing to him. So what are they going to do? They're going to lift the minimum wage. Immediately they'll lift the minimum wage to $15. Well, that's up 9% on the current minimum wage. And on top of that, the privileged government workers, I haven't quite worked out why government workers need to be so much more privileged, are going to have their wage lifted up to $18.40. So that's a 34% increase on the minimum wage tomorrow. Isn't that wonderful? Up a third. It's going up faster than the Auckland rates. Now, so all you have to do, you vote for Cunliffe, you vote for Robinson, and your wage magically goes up by 34%. I wonder who is going to commit amongst them that they will reject any cascade of relativity agreements about this. So the people who are currently earning $18.40, they'll think, well, okay, well, it's gone up, so we should go up to $22. And the people earning $22 an hour, they'll think, well, that's not fair, or mine should go up to $26. And then what about the PESA members working for the government earning $100,000 a year? They'll be asking, well, theirs have gone up 34%. Why shouldn't mine go up 34%? And so on and so on. Where will it end? You have to go back to 1985 to see such a reckless inflationary piece of public policy put on this country. I think it was Stan Rogers and David Longy, the lady there in charge of the health policy these days, Annette King. She was in the Parliament back then, but nobody else, and Phil Goff, but nobody else was around since we've had such a reckless inflationary piece of public policy put on the patron as what we're talking about here. And we expect it from Mr. Robinson. He's a public sector union man through and through. He's all about spending and redistributing money, not about earning it. But I'm surprised that we see it from Cunliffe, a man with some business experience. David Cunliffe, the Quade Cooper of New Zealand politics, who should know better, should know that you can't pass off this kind of thing as costing $20 million when we know that it could be, what, $2.5 billion is our expectation of the increase in minimum wage is what they're talking about if they're going to give everybody a minimum wage of $18.40 who happens to work for the Parliament. And why would they do that? It's not as if we don't have a very, very generous redistribution arrangements with the Working for Families so that anybody on the minimum wage in New Zealand with children, dependent children, receives credits rather than tax and gets a significant boost from the rest of New Zealand. Mr. Speaker, it's very worrying watching this lolly scramble that we are seeing on the other side, because it reflects a world where by magic wages can be put up, and by magic Mr. Jones can walk into the supermarket and reduce the cost of food everywhere by dealing with the so-called duopolies. I do not want that man anywhere near my chickens, Mr. Speaker. And it's all about pandering to the entitlement culture that bedevils New Zealand. This is the truth. The New Zealand as a nation is not entitled to anything. We're not entitled to any standard of living other than what we go out and we earn. We have to earn our way, and governments must manage its finances. It must operate its public services in a way that's focused on results, not just spending money for the sake of it. It focuses on building a more productive and competitive economy, and that's what this National Party is doing, and that's why it continues to enjoy such success and is making great progress to get us back to surplus and getting this country growing effectively, so much more effectively than so many other countries in the OECD. And we're living in a golden age right now, notwithstanding the terrible events in Syria that the previous speaker alluded to. But when we look around our region, we see India, we see China growing. Hundreds of millions of people are being lifted out of poverty as we speak. They're looking for products, they're looking for the sorts of things that New Zealand produces. And so this is a wonderful time to be living in New Zealand and a very positive time for this country. But we have to grasp it. We need to reward enterprise. We need to celebrate entrepreneurship. And we certainly don't hear any of that from the Labour Party. Instead, we have a parade of dinosaurs pandering to the insular, unrealistic entitlement culture that is holding us back as a country, and it's time we heard the end of it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Reno Te Mr.
Speaker, this government is a two-trick pony.